Oh, there's people over there. It's fine. Hello. Going to be talking about music and some pretty sad stuff. B, as performed by Rav with instrumentals by Potsu, is one of those songs. One of those sounds happy, sounds peaceful, sounds nice, but really it's pretty dark. Rav, as he tends to do on a lot of his songs, gets grotesquely personal. With the soft, simple, and almost fun instrumental and Rav's, quite frankly, melodic and almost peaceful rapping and singing on this track, it can be a little jarring to really dive into and listen to the lyrics. But despite this, or I mean honestly, likely because of this, Rav and Rav's audience adores this track. I mean, Rav has stated many times that this is his favorite track ever made. And I think the reason people love this track so much is because how much catharsis it brings them and Rav specifically. Alright, we're calling it. I'm changing shots. So let's talk about the lyrics. To really tear the band-aid off, this song is about isolation, depression, suicidal thoughts and ideations, self-hate, and the pressure put on him from others, and how that exacerbates all those effects. The first two verses just feature a lot of lines that honestly are just a lot of self-hate and negative thoughts coming from Rav's point of view. The first two verses have an attempt by Rav to describe the suffocating and disorienting depressive fugue state as part of this depressive cycle that he finds himself in over and over again, with several lines revolving around how difficult it is to get anything done with a cycle of stress and depression weighing him down, with lines such as,
crushed between the four walls, ceiling and the floorboards. I can walk nor see forwards. When I talk, my speech more door. Week after week, increasing my fatigue, I feel weak.
and
Belief feels belittling now, I've been beaten.
however, and this will come in important later on in the video, throughout the song there are references to how others encouraged or expected him to be better so that when he fails, the weight is even more crushing. There are lines like,
You told me don't be wrong, forgotten that I'm me. See, at the beginning they said that I would be winning, but a beautiful thought, but one I no longer believe in.
and of course,
Guess I failed at living, guess I failed and I guess I'm failed, so my failure isn't your fault.
that last line is very important. I believe this line is supposed to be a look from one of the people Rav receives this outside pressure from, and how as soon as they do see him actually fail, they push it all entirely on Rav and do not accept any blame of their own. The theme of depressive cycles is unfortunately constant throughout a lot of Rav's discography, with one of his albums, I'm On To Me, being entirely about this depressive cycle, and even the album itself looping, as the first track is called Dandelions, like the flower, and the final song on the track, To My Future Self, ends with him blowing on a dandelion. I say this to highlight that Rav is not afraid to get scarily personal and vulnerable in his lyrics. In fact, his biography says, hip-hop is the language I utilize to organize and make sense of my feelings, both the enduring and the fleeting. And something that I admire a lot about Rav is that he's stated many times that even if he had 0 fans, he'd be making the songs he does. He often expressed how he writes honestly just for himself and is lucky that he's found an audience. I'm going to go to a new location for the next section of this video. Alright, I'm going to talk about the instrumental and the major switch up that happens at the end of the song. The instrumental does a lot of work on this track despite its simplicity, and I think it's pretty genius how the instrumental connects to the lyrics. I really appreciate the stripped back approach the instrumentals take. It allows Rav's lyricism and emotional delivery to take center stage. I say simple only because there's really 3 or maybe 4 instruments going on at a time throughout this entire song. During the chorus there's a chippy and quick snare and a melody piano. And during the verses, there's this synth and a droning or long delay piano and some cymbals. And through the entire song, except for the very last musical switch, there's this rhythmic ding that can be heard at the start of the song. This chimex is foreshadowing and a morbid reference to the story of Rav's suicide attempt, as he describes in this third verse. While driving home, he speeds in front of a lowering train crossing, closing his eyes and hoping to be hit. And it is during this third verse that the chime is dropped and the song is allowed to blossom into a more emotional and dramatic composition. But with this instrumental shift also comes a shift in the tone of the lyrics. After the description of his suicide attempt, there is a vicious stressing down of people close to him, especially his mother, and how they would belittle or ignore his mental health problems, exacerbating their effects. With lines like,
You claim I ain't broken, you liken my wounds. Do things that you deal with ease, I should too. You make me hate me more than I should hate you. It's always you.
Obviously, this line in realization does not clear Rav of his depressive tendencies or suicidal ideations. I don't think this line is meant to clear Rav of any guilt or pain that he has. He's very upfront about his own shortcomings, mistakes, and any cycles that he's in. He's very upfront that he needs to solve them for himself. I think this is more of a retaliation and being rightfully angry at someone who's been kicking him while he's down and refusing to accept any blame for any part they had in his suffering, which I believe comes with a lot of catharsis. There's supposed to be a whole transition, but the camera ran out of battery, so we're just doing this now. This section is about the live performance, audio interaction, and the catharsis that's gained through that, and just in general that you get from the song. Having been to a Rav concert, I do think this is one of his best live songs. Reminder, the song itself is depressing and somber with its soft instrumental track and crushing lyrics, but despite this, when it's performed live, even with his more intense and wild songs, it's given just as much intensity and flair by Rav and his audience. Despite this song being very personal, the audience makes themselves well known throughout the track, screaming and singing along to the lyrics. This is often encouraged by Rav, as he will open up the microphone during the chorus and bridge sections for the audience to sing along. Especially since Rav's fan base is a little bit smaller, it feels way more tight-knit. The audience begins to jump, pump their fists, and wave rhythmically during the chorus, while Rav will jump, leap, and just be exuberant all around the stage as he is with all of his songs. Rav has a very strong stage presence for all of his songs, but for this one especially, it feels more powerful, more raw, more vulnerable. All while he sings, raps, and screams, his voice sounds almost strained, and dare to say it sounds like he's on the verge of tears. It's such a beautiful moment being there live and seeing him perform this with this feeling of togetherness. And to quote someone who's far more educated than I am in this,
potential for music, for closing the space between solo expression and collective connection, where artists and audience can experience catharsis and understanding.
I believe it's the openness, especially from Rav, but also from his community, that allows this connection and catharsis to happen live and also just when listening at home. Often when Rav is finished performing B, he says, in this video, he says, "Thank you for letting me be." And when I was there live, he just thanked the audience and said, "Thank you for letting me vent. Thank you for letting me..." I don't remember if he used catharsis exactly, but it was close. And I think clearly a lot of his audience has experienced, or at least can empathize with, the themes of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations that he expresses in these songs, which gives them catharsis too, as Rav is experiencing it performing this song. And I believe it's the final verse that Rav and the audience truly are able to experience catharsis, because the instrumental changes dramatically, and so do the tone and themes of the lyrics, as it, instead of the pain being pushed inside, he's able to punch outwards and give that release, which is what catharsis really is. And it's through this singing, screaming, rapping, dancing, listening at home, when Rav created the song, all these things that give the release of emotion and bring that catharsis and peace from such an odd place, from a song that seems so lyrically dark and depressing. I just wanted to close this video out with a final remark and kind of bewilderment, because it's amazing how close a community can get when an artist allows people to interface with them and provides a common ground for people to come together and experience this powerful feeling of catharsis. I'm honestly struggling to find a way to end this video, but I think there's no better way than just to say thank you to Rav and his community for being cool people, and of course to check out Rav and anything from his label X Society. They do great stuff. I love their music. Definitely go check them out. I'm definitely going to have some of their albums and stuff over there. So yeah, thank you.